This is the largest flying bird in the world. It has a wingspan of over 11 feet, and it can stay airborne for years without landing. This is the albatross. Hi, and welcome to Wings of Wonder. Today we're going to learn all about the albatross. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, because there's so much to cover. And I have a feeling you re-gone, nah. Want to see this incredible footage of them in flight? But first, let's begin with a fun fact. Did you know that albatrosses can live to be more than 60 years old? That's older than some humans. There are many species of albatross, but they all share one thing in common. They're huge. The largest species, the wandering albatross, can have a wingspan of more than 11 feet. It's almost as wide as a doorway, and these giant wings allow them to soar effortlessly through the air. In fact, albatrosses can fly for hours without flapping their wings. Instead, they use something called dynamic soaring. This means that they take advantage of air currents to stay aloft. As the air beneath them rises, so do they. When the air currents die down, they simply glide until they reach a patch of rising air, and then they climb again. With this technique, albatrosses are able to cover vast distances without expending a lot of energy. Speaking of energy, albatrosses don't need to eat very often. They can go for months without food. In fact, some albatrosses have gone a whole year without eating. How do they do it? Well, when they're soaring through the air, they can catch fish and squid in their massive beaks, and they're not picky eaters. They'll eat just about anything they can find. In fact, albatrosses have been known to steal food from other birds. And while we're talking about their beaks, let's take a moment to appreciate their feet. Albatrosses have webbed feet that help them swim underwater. They also have sharp claws that they use to grip slippery prey. Now, even though they are excellent swimmers, albatrosses prefer to stay in the air. In fact, they spend most of their lives at sea. Only occasionally do they come ashore to lay their eggs or to rest. And speaking of eggs, albatrosses typically lay one egg per year. The egg is white and leathery, and it takes about 3 months to hatch. Once the chick hatches, both parents take turns incubating the egg, while the other goes out to sea to find food. When the chick is old enough, it leaves the nest and joins the adults at sea, and that's when the real learning begins. Young albatrosses must learn how to fly, how to find food, and how to avoid predators. Luckily for them, they're born with excellent instincts. Damn. In fact, some people believe that albatrosses are one of the most intelligent types of birds. They're certainly capable of complex thought. For example, albatrosses have to remember the location of their nest so that they can return to it after a long trip at sea. They also have to remember the location of their feeding grounds so that they can find food for their chicks. Some scientists believe that albatrosses have the ability to recognize themselves in mirrors, which is a sign of high intelligence. So now you know a lot about albatrosses, but I bet you still want to see them in flight. So here you go. These incredible birds are truly majestic as they soar through the air. Their wingspans can reach up to 11 feet, allowing them to glide effortlessly for hours on end. They use dynamic soaring to stay aloft, taking advantage of air currents to minimize energy expenditure. Albatrosses typically feed on fish and squid, but they're not above stealing food from other birds. With their sharp claws, webbed feet, and massive beaks, they're perfectly adapted for a life at sea. Albatrosses typically lay one egg per year, and both parents take turns incubating the egg and feeding the chick. Despite their size, albatrosses are surprisingly agile and graceful in the air, making them one of the most beautiful creatures to behold. Well, that's all for now, but I hope you'll join me next time for another Wings of Wonder. Till then, keep soaring high and fly safe.